The grey tones. Using my original pencil sketch, I'm going to start building up the shadows using the Copic grey markers, emulating the shadows from the pencil sketch. Start with a lighter grey. In this case I'm using N3 or neutral grey 3. I'm going to slowly build up a darker tone for the shadows, keeping in mind that my light source is coming from the front and below, so it's casting a shadow on the shoulders and upper part of the face. I also have this red moon in the background that will illuminate parts of the body, so I'll keep those areas free of any grey or shading. As I'm building up the shadows, I'm always keeping in mind that this is a 3D object. As you progress with the shadows, start to add in the darker greys. I'm adding in the N4 or neutral grey 4 next. This is just slightly darker than the N3, but you can already see how it's darkening the shadows more and giving this nice impression that the body shapes are curved and three-dimensional. Next, start to add in some neutral grey 6. The darker our figure is now becoming is really making the contrast between the background and figure really stand out. And all those little features within the character's suit are beginning to pop out too. You can also see how planning this stage in pencil first has really helped guide this shading stage. The spectrum of greys starts at 0 and goes all the way up to 10, with 10 being the darkest. They also have a range of warm and cool. Using a neutral grey reduces the colour shift between warm and cool and only changes how light or dark the colour will be that will apply over the top. I also feel it's not necessary to use all the grey tones for each illustration, as the difference in shades between each number of shade is very slight. Sometimes you get a much better effect by blending just the 3, 4 and 6 grey markers together, such as I have, or 1, 3 and 6, rather than using all 7 markers from 0 to 6. Adding colour. Now that the greys have been added in a way that builds up a really good representation of the shadows, I'm going to start layering colour over the top. I'm first matching the surrounding sky colour using the V12 Pale Lilac, slowly adding more and more layers as I push the colour into shadows. Keep handy your original pencil sketch, as you are still going to rely on its shading reference to help guide you. Next, for areas where the shadows start to gradually appear, start adding a layer of the BV31 Pale Lavender. And as it shifts into the really darker shadows, I'll use the B23. The process of using markers at this stage is about layering the ink. If one layer of colour appears too saturated with the wrong colour, I can go back over it with another. The alcohol in the ink activates the existing layer of ink and starts to blend or neutralize the colour depending on how much is applied. Here's a tip. For really difficult areas where too much of an unwanted colour is applied, try using the colourless blender. Gently using a circular motion, you can disperse the ink until you've almost brought the paper back to its original colour. For edges where the form reflects the colour shining from the setting red moon in the background, I'll add that same colour from the R43 Bougainvillea. This creates the illusion of the three-dimensional shape while giving the sense that the character is in the same space by reacting to the surrounding lighting. For the face and skin tone, I'm using the E15 Dark Suntan, and I'm also going to use a little bit in the fabric of the shawl, or cape if you prefer to call it that, to differentiate it from the black rubbery texture of the suit. For the really dark areas, I can go in with the black. Once the Copic colours are in place, using the selected Polychromos pencils, I'm going to start softening some of the hard edges to the shadows with black, and adding some highlighted areas with the warm grey 3, while using the Bistre to give a sense of the dustiness to the suit. Around the outer edges where the edges are quite black, I'm going over it with the manganese violet. As you wouldn't have the edges in complete black, they would reflect their surrounding colour in some way. It also makes the colour more three-dimensional. Copic markers on their own are a great medium to work with, but you can see when combined with pencils they can open up a whole range of possibilities for creation, and they are a lot of fun to work with. This final colouring process took about 30 to 40 minutes to complete. Part of that comes from the preparation work done in the initial stages of this project. By planning ahead, you reduce the need to make adjustments as you go, and by giving yourself a clear vision, you won't have to make too many adjustments if you make errors. And if problems do arise, you can always go back to your previous step rather than restart the whole project. And there you have it. Now this colour illustration in Copics and pencil can be used as a colour reference guide for the final acrylic painting. It would be possible to do a larger, more detailed version using the Copics, but where I think the Copics really excel is when they are used in the sketching stage of the design process. Their blending ability and large range of colours lets you come up with countless colour combinations. Some of the downsides are you have to work from light to dark, and there is little to no opacity for many of the colours, so that does take some getting used to. In this lesson, we looked at how to construct a composition, add shadow and colour to your sketches with Copic markers in preparation for your final artwork. Next, we'll transfer this sketch to our painting surface, prepare the surface, and begin the groundwork for the final larger scale painting. In the meantime, I want you to start implementing what you've seen in this lesson for your own class project. So for this week's project, you've either selected your favourite novel of all time to work on, or you can follow along with the exact steps provided in this presentation and recreate your own Dune novel cover. Take one character from the book to illustrate on your cover and represent them in a way that demonstrates a strong emotional connection you have with the character. After all, if you don't feel an emotional connection to the characters, neither will the viewer. Upload your progress or your final project to the community page for help. To access the community, click on the link in the description or visit courses.dionhamel.com and search for the community card titled DHI Community. Upload your project to the community page and let's encourage and inspire each other with our work. And if you'd like any feedback for your work, please let me know when you post what it is you are struggling with. Also, feel free to ask a question at any time during the design process and I will be more than happy to reply to your questions. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you create. I'll see you soon.